Hi, my name is Ashish Chandan, and I am your moderator for today's session on implications of digitization and advanced technologies like AI for future employment opportunities in Barbados.
Hi, how did y'all feel when you just heard that? You felt uncomfortable.
Hey, so did I.
You felt bored, uncomfortable, bored, repulsive. Whoa.
It was weird.
Weird, interesting perspectives. Nobody said exciting. Nobody said intimidated. Interesting. We should have a word cloud. So, good afternoon. My name is Ashish Chandani, and I'll be your moderator for today. I am pleased and honored to be moderating this session. We have a very exciting lineup of panelists from across all disciplines. So I'll just do a very quick introduction. We have Senator Toni Moore, who's a Barbadian trade unionist politician, and she's currently the General Secretary for the Barbados Workers Union. We have Junior Burgess, who's the Director in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. And if you were here on a Wednesday, we have Mr. Java Seeley, who is one of the digital ambassadors and a current student at the University of the West Indies. So thank you and welcome. So today what we're going to chat about is a very exciting topic, and to some degree some people even say controversial, which is the impact on advanced technologies such as AI, robotics, and automation on the Barbados workforce. So very, very interesting. So some of the themes we're going to be covering just to put context to the discussion. We're going to talk about job reskilling. We're going to chat a bit about robotics, automation. We're going to also chat about ethics and bias that come into play. And we're going to chat a little more in terms of how this particular fourth industrial age compares to the last three or so that we've gone through. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open up to my panelists. And Senator, I'm going to start with you. And when you heard that particular soundbite just now, again, what was your initial feeling of that?
As I said before, bored, because it did sound a little monotone, and coming into a session at 3 in the afternoon, one wants to be a lot more upbeat as you anticipate, happy hour, weekend, anything else. But outside of that, it just gave me a hint of what is, what could be, and things to come, the possibilities that exist.
So I definitely got from your tone and so forth a level of excitement.
Okay.
But in terms of AI and so forth, obviously within your particular position, within the particular labor movement, what opportunities, how do you see AI and technologies like robotics and automation advancing that movement or potentially digressing it? What do you think is the first impact, or what are your members seeing?
Okay, but that's a very loaded question, because how I see it might not be necessarily how a number of other trade unionists see it. Because I am one that is not caught up in the challenges as much as the opportunities. AI, the fourth industrial wave, the industrial revolution, can potentially change the dynamic of how labor relations and trade unions function. I don't necessarily see that as being a negative, as we were discussing before the session actually started. You can either consider something, a glass as being half full or half empty. So yes, the AI, the fourth industrial revolution, it has potential for changing the world of work phenomenally. Jobs that currently exist are jobs that will not exist, and I make that statement, currently exists and will not exist within the context of Barbados, because Barbados is positioned in a very different way to if we were having this discussion, like say for Canada or Sweden or Denmark and those countries, because our current context is that we are still in the past. Well, the present is already here, and we are talking about it as if it is something futuristic. So we are kind of stuck in that mode because the fourth industrial revolution, the age of artificial intelligence and digitization and so on, has started at least 4 years or so ago. But here we are in Barbados discussing it as something to come, although it is here. So it is changing the world of work and the opportunities that exist. While we have jobs that will fall, there is tremendous potential for new jobs to be created. And I think the challenge that we have, and that we will get into more fully, will be to ensure that we prepare our educational system, prepare our people, that they can take advantage of the jobs and the opportunities that exist, rather than becoming preoccupied with what does not exist anymore. So by answering that way, I give you my focus, but also suggest to you that there is a recognition amongst some trade unionists, we have to fight AI, we have to fight the Industrial Revolution, as if we can.
That's such an interesting point. I'm very excited by your response. I could definitely see, as we were chatting about, is how you view the glass. Is it half empty or half full? And I love that particular knowledge. I think you made a very interesting point in terms of country and industry. So Barbados, for example, is already pretty much a laggard within that regard.
Very much so.
Whereas the OECD countries and so forth, Canada, United States, and UK, Singapore, are already leaps and bounds ahead. So I think industry and country context are very, very important. Some industries will move forward faster than others, whereas some industries may take a little longer. So traditional industries such as consulting and legal and so forth will take a little longer versus manufacturing and retail. We touched a bit on retooling and whatnot. Dario, I'd love to hear your feedback on that particular topic.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you for introducing it, because I mean, my perspective would be from the educational perspective. I'm for sure the education system has to change. When I look at a child that is before us, so let's start with children first, because in this revolution, the adults also have to change what they're doing and also be retooled for the jobs that they have to do. But if you look at a child that's before us right now, we look at a child that is ingrained in technology. I've read an article that says that the students of today expect to be taught by technology. But right now, we're not doing that in a holistic manner. We're doing that in pockets. Maybe with probably one educator in a school utilizing technology wholesale, and a few more just small tidbits of technology. So that's one of the first things that we have to look at. How do we change our system to ensure that we are embracing technology in educating our students? Well, I said it yesterday, I'll say it now. Well, our students have lots of technology. The key is, how do we teach them how to use this technology effectively so that they are at the cutting edge, so that they can lead Barbados forward? And that is important. For me, to change education, a big focus has to be having a dialogue with the labor movement, with the employers, asking of them, what do you require from education? We've, for a long while, had what we call a supply-driven system. In other words, we come up with, these are what we're going to teach persons, A, B, C, D. We're going to teach you this. And we taught them that. But sometimes you look in the market, and the market, after being taught with A, B, C, D, does the market require A, B, C, D? So we have to retool our system to be a demand-driven system, where the market comes to us and the market says, okay, this is what we want to do in the next 4 or 5 years. And education then looks to set up programs. And when I say education, I mean from the nursery to tertiary, where you set up the system to ensure that you are inculcating the skills that the market requires. It means that the market also has to not only look within what they're currently doing, but they also have to benchmark. They have to look on the international market and see where the market is going, so that they're not settling for a middle tier when the international market is going so far ahead. So for education to change, we have to change to be a demand-driven training system. What the market demands is what education needs to create and produce.
Oh, that's excellent feedback. In terms of, we're chatting about the market and education and so forth. If someone were to ask the panel, or we ask us today, what are some of the more important, what are the more critical skills that we would need in the next maybe several years. For me, stuff that comes to mind would be obviously problem-solving skills, communication skills. What additional skills are those critical skill sets you think we will need going forward?
The theory in education speaks of the 4 C's of 21st century learning. And those, you mentioned 2 of them, critical thinking, creativity, which is important, communication and collaboration. And those are the skills that we have to get in our classroom. Gone are the days where you sit at your table, your desk, and you work on your own. You have to work in a collaborative learning environment. Because when you go to the world of work, you don't always work alone. You have to work with your peers, stakeholders. So we have to inculcate that from within the classroom. How do you work collaboratively with those that are around you? Now, it's not easy. I can give a simple example. My son brought home a project just the other day. 4 of them doing a project. And it was chaos. He was frustrated. He was like, but they're not listening to me. And I'm like, I smile. And then they chose a topic. He does not like the topic they chose. So he's gone off on his own trying to create a topic. And I said to him, you can't do that. That's not how it works. The topic that is chosen, you have to work within that framework and also give input. So we sat together, well, somewhat, and I started to work with him to help him to see how you can fit into this project. So collaboration, which we can just point out there, is a big thing. And we see it failing so often, even at the university level, where we create project work and persons, one body contribute, and somebody else hides and then likes to piggyback off of what the other persons did. But in this learning environment that has to be created for success, what we call 21st century learning, collaboration is key. Creativity is also key. We can't stifle creativity. Creativity comes down to even things like sports. Before, we made sport at it, but now it's a big business. Now people are becoming millionaires because of these things. So,
I think we have a mic issue.
Do I keep going or do I start? Oh, I have a big voice. Yeah. So with these things now, all of a sudden now sports states on a different perspective. So creativity is important. The artist is important. The artist contributes a great deal to Barbados and also to how Barbados' future. We speak of communication. We did a survey under the project I run called Skills for the Future. And we asked the persons, what are the skill sets required for persons coming into the market? And you know what they said? They said that even though the students are coming generally with the hard skills or the technical skills, the softer skills are lacking. So the ability to communicate, those skills are lacking. The ability to work in groups, those skills are lacking. So those are the skills that education also have to focus on, not just technical skills, but some of those, what we always call softer skills. But if you really think, they're not the hard, easiest skills to learn.
No, that's excellent feedback. So Java, you made quite an entrance on Wednesday, and I'm very pleased to have you here on the panel. So Java's one of the Mrs. Digital Ambassadors, and we had him on a panel on Wednesday, which was very successful. We chatted about what Smart Barbados meant to you. So you're obviously at University of West Indies. So we're here chatting about UE. We're chatting about skills. Do you see some of these concepts or discussion items being pulled into your everyday curriculum? Or
most definitely. Actually, everything that's been said by my fellow panelists is something that I can relate to on a personal level. I actually have a lot to say on everything that they've said already. So
we know.
so buckle up, everybody. Now, I want to begin with saying that we should bear in mind that artificial intelligence can never really be a replacement for human intelligence, and that's the fear that most people have. As a student of international relations, what I've learned is that in the international political economy, the global markets, thanks to politics, are always in flux. They're mutually interdependent. Therefore, I have to agree with my fellow panelists on everything that they've said with regard to making sure that everybody's tooled. Now, I have a running joke with some of my comrades in the Faculty of Science and Technology who joke that my faculty should be called the Faculty of Cashiers, because that's what the degrees are good for in this current economic climate. Now, some may wonder, is that really a joke? How do you not get offended? But for me, I find peace and I'm able to sleep at night in knowing that the Faculty of Social Sciences is one which trains people to understand societal problems and prescribe solutions with the advantage of a greater exposure to various types of literature, which allows us to be more expansive within our thinking as opposed to them in science and technology, thinking in their narrow empirical methodological ways of repeating processes to find a different result. I smile in knowing that our degrees in social sciences can be only made better with technology as with larger society, but we have to recall that if we say A, we have to say B, and that tools are only powerful within the right hands, but more importantly, well driven with the right minds. This is a cross-cutting and a highly relevant issue which now has yet to be fleshed out to a greater extent. Now, the skills that we need require a deep understanding and knowledge with simultaneous analysis and predictability, which can be implemented at all levels as it relates to saving time and making life easier. Us UB students use the whole group work debacle when it comes around to actually exercise our skills of strategy. I am one. Personally, since I take my group work so seriously and since it really is such a problem, since collaboration could be such a problem at university, what I do is that I access our e-learning platform, which is the platform where we access all of our work. But the e-learning platform has a feature that displays the participants. So what I do before each semester starts, once registration takes place, I go and look at every single participant in the class, and I choose all of my group members before they can even know that they could have been, I choose all of my group members before they could have chosen me. So they might not know me, but I know them.
But doesn't mean they accept you, though.
Oh, of course. No, right. I choose wisely, and as much as many people might see that as a negative, there is a positive in me using strategy to be able to come to the conclusion that I want. And by using that strategy, I end up getting the result that I want every single time. My GPA speaks for me. But in finalizing my point, I smile in knowing the potential for marriage of expansive thinking with a global worldview with the use of the same technology that we develop in parallel. Now, regarding education, just like my comrade so rightly said, it starts from the youngest of ages, and we have to continue to train people to think from very, very young. I could tell you a personal story, which I'm surprised got me to the state where I am, using my language to the way that it is. When I was very young, about 6 years old, I did something very naughty to my younger sister. She had a little chair, and I used to like to sit in it because I wasn't supposed to sit in it. And one day, I took my chubby self, and I sat in the chair and broke it right before she needed it to have her hair plait. And my father descended upon me like a hawk. And he tapped my brain hard, hard. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And he told me, think, you have to think. He could have administered corporal punishment. And, since he was new to fatherhood relatively, I don't think he really understood the magnitude of what he had done for me. I have been thinking every day since that day. Encouraging young people to think and to learn and to dream while teaching them how to harness the immense resources that they have while understanding their learning style and exploiting it to their tremendous gain while managing them and guiding them while somehow giving them the room to grow in their thinking is going to be quintessential to how we usher in the fourth industrial revolution. Now, there's a lot more that I could say, but I just want to ask if you have any questions.
No, I'm good. I see you have quite a thesis there. I think you're doing that dissertation, actually. But no, just to summarize some key takeaways. So your father could have beat you bad, right?
He could have,
but he didn't.
He didn't.
But no, I think we need to recognize, obviously, people learn at different rates. People learn at different styles. I think you hit the nail on the head about AI in terms of what we call narrow AI and general AI, all right, which is very interesting. Narrow AI focused obviously on very specific tasks and whatnot. General is obviously, as it suggests, more broad. Me personally, since obviously you're asking me the questions, I think that you have some what I would call augmentation. So, for example, we use calculators, we use Microsoft Excel. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have a negative impact on us. What it does is, to some degree, is free us up to focus on more other empowering and engaging activities and move up the value chain. What I'll do right now, I'll just open up the floor for any questions. Okay. I think I'm pretty much between one of the last sessions, so let's just jump right into it. So I want to talk a little bit about AI bias, all right, and machine learning and so forth, and how that comes into play. I'm just going to open it up to any three of you. What we've been seeing right now is certain, obviously, artificial intelligence, machine learning. It needs to learn. based on the data is being ingested. But we're ingesting the data. So in the next couple of decades and so forth, how are we going to be able to address or handle this particular bias within the AI that we've technically created? Because one of the key things that it is that said pretty much that AI is supposed to be very objective. But if we're putting in our bias in it, how objective is it really? So maybe, Senator, maybe you have any comments on that?
Yes, a trade unionist has a comment on everything. But we're talking about, Jared mentioned something very interesting, and I like the use of the word comrade, by the way. But he did mention something very interesting when he spoke about artificial intelligence, and he spoke about the fact that human beings still have to control the artificial intelligence. And that is something that in the trade union movement that we are focusing on as a measure of preparing our people and ensuring that they're not intimidated by the changes to come. Actually, the International Labor Organization, which is a body comprising employers' representatives, workers' representatives, and governments, we speak about a human-centered agenda to digitization and to the fourth industrial wave, which recognizes what the specific question which you asked, which I'm coming to, the issue of bias, the fact that human beings will control the agenda for AI, and so on. As it relates to bias, I think that the answer to that question rests very much in what we hope to be the output. And AI will not just, or machines will not just function on their own. They will be fit for a specific purpose. They will be built to answer particular requirements that we set. And on the issue of bias, that's a more scientific thing that Jared and his contemporary students and so on may preoccupy themselves with. But for people like me representing workers in an environment, it is ensuring that what we want to get out of the technology is something that's clearly understood, and then the processes that are applied to ensuring that we achieve what we want to get out of it, that those are applied in a way that does not make the human in the system feel second to the machine. Because as you rightfully recognize, there's a place basically for everybody, and AI, digitization, technology frees up that space for us to be less rudimentary and for us to be more analytical and so on. And that is what we are looking for, to make the best use of our time and the gifts that we all have.
Great. Thank you. So, in the terms of, in relative to obviously your union, have you seen? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you. I have a question. So, first one goes to Senator Moore. Now, given the changes that we expect in society as a result of the technology, how are you positioning your members? You have a large membership in terms of union members. How are you positioning, or how is the union prepared to position itself to, I don't want to say accommodate, to respect the fact that there will be job losses going forward, but there will be cases whereby people will get a chance to be re-employed. So just I would call it temporary dislocation, but I'm sure you'll get some pushback from that. How are you planning to deal with that? That's the first thing. And the second question goes to the gentleman, I don't remember his name, from education. I don't know if you spoke to this earlier, sorry, it came in a bit late. But how is education, how is the ministry dealing with the fact that, again, from the same perspective, there will be dislocation, people will be going home, people will not be employed in the traditional sense of employment, they'll be doing a whole number of different things. How is the education ministry looking to address that situation as well.
Okay, so the first question was mine, and thank you very much. One of the first things that the union has to do and has been doing speaks to a strategic response of ours, which is to modernize our structures, not to resist the changes, but to recognize that changes will come and to anticipate them and to be ready to deal with them when they come. As part of our implementation, recognizing that strategic objective, a big part of that is education. The restructuring that our word that trade unionists hate is something that is inevitable when you're speaking about change going from one mode to the next. But education is not only about the worker but the employer as well. You don't just wake up a morning and decide that something is going to change. You go through your strategic processes, you know what you are preparing for, and we always encourage employers not to wait until the moment, but bring us on board so that together we can work with them to make sure that people are reschooled, retooled, retrained, equipped to meet the new challenges. You don't just get up a morning and decide, Jared, I don't want you anymore, Melissa, I don't want you anymore. It's part of a process where if we are involved early enough, we can work to get people ready for the changes. So it wouldn't be a question of displacement, physical dislocation of the worker, but just a transition in terms of what you're doing now to what you will be doing. Then it is education of the worker. And the Barbados Workers Union has a labor college as well. And it is not education is not typically one of the core objectives of a union. When people hear about a trade union, you think about strikes, you think about increases in money, you think about responses to health and safety issues. But education is a big part of what we have been doing from the early 1980s. And that's not only teaching people about organizing and about collective bargaining, but to a very large extent, we teach people about life. So the 4 C's that you speak about, those are things that we focus on and we've been focusing on forever, and preparing people on jobs of the future, how things will change. And I'll let you into a secret. Right now, the Barbados Workers Union is very focused on just transition. We are looking at renewable energy. We have about 30 acres of land, unused land, at the Labor College that we are looking to get into energy projects and so on, so that we can use our physical educational training institution to do theoretical study, and then hopefully we can utilize that land in a way that workers can also get hands-on into some of the changing opportunities that may be available to them. So we're looking at plant culture studies and a whole range of things. So our union is not just the kind of union that, it's actually the union that you should join in Barbados. Outside of that, it's about pursuing cooperation, because representation is what we do. Organizing is at the core of our work. So the union is not looking to accept that it's an answer to every challenge that will be there, but partnering with organizations and agencies that can help us to deliver on the strategic vision we have for our workers and for our communities. So promoting education as a strategy and as an important strategy of decent work, because we're not only interested in opportunities being created, but a trade union body is interested in ensuring that decent work opportunities exist. And what do I mean by decent work? Social dialogue has to be a part of it, so workers must have a chance to input into it. Decent work opportunities mean that we don't trade off social protection benefits just for new opportunities. So we speak about existing structures. People don't stop enjoying maternity benefit and pensions and disability benefits and sickness benefits and so on just because they become entrepreneurs or self-starters and so on. So dialogue will feed into that, ensure that social protection exists, ensures that people's fundamental rights and so on are protected, because even in a changing work environment and even with technological advances, all of these things are important. So there are always the underlying questions as to the relevance of trade unions, and those questions only become important or should only preoccupy you if you have a vision or a view of a trade union organization as one that is stuck in the mold, as opposed to one that is keeping with the times and preparing people for the times as we continue to anticipate not only the technological changes but other changes that will impact the world of work. Does that answer your question? Because like Jared, I can go on, although I don't have the thesis written.
Yeah, it's
Java.
Java.
Sorry. JavaScript.
Yeah, I just have one question. In terms of your members and so forth, having these type of discussions, do you see these discussions being brought to the forum when you have your members meetings and so forth? Is there any dialogue happening right now?
Yes, there is, and the Barbados Workers Union is a general workers union representing a wide cross-section of workers. And as you would imagine, that there are some workers that are more receptive to the kinds of discussions, and then there is a section of our membership that will be more conservative and thinking, man, you can't let machines replace us, you got to do something, you got to fight for this, you got to fight for that. But that's all part of our challenge and our process, getting people from that point to connecting with how things are and not to perceive the union as failing them as we are trying to transition you, but seeing that the union is actually helping to facilitate your development. It's a work in process, and I can actually break it down by industry. But I'm thinking that any of you in this room could probably sit down and connect and see the areas in your mind where it will be more challenging, especially when you come to low-skilled workers. And low-skilled jobs are the jobs that are most at risk as we move into the age of AI. So you could understand why the resistance would be there, as opposed to people who are more highly skilled and qualified and can allow AI to do the more routine things while they focus on the more analytical things. So our job is certainly cut out for us, not a smooth road. Yes, there is resistance, but this is what we do.
I think we were chatting the other day, and what we generally agree to is that resistance in itself is a natural response to change.
And it's a challenge.
And it's a challenge. But I think we were chatting, we said it's really about how you frame it. Yes. So how you look at it really, impacts your perception of it. So no, thank you very much. There was another question, Junior, for you in terms of what is the ministry, how is the ministry equipped in, obviously, society and so forth to deal with these new AI technology disruption and whatnot?
Before I answer that question, I want to just mention one thing, and that is the whole concept of being a lifelong learner. I think that is critical in this current environment. For the young people like yourself, Java, for persons that are much more older like me. I mean, I'm probably twice your age, I think. I was just going to say that, but I won't do that to you.
I'm young.
You're younger, yeah, you are. And we have to create that environment through our educational system or through our training of our people, so that at whatever stage they are at, they understand that it has to be about lifelong learning. You can no longer be satisfied with learning a skill 20 years ago and having the comfort that that skill can take you to the end of your life. Yesterday, Bart was speaking, and she was telling about the experience of the members of Bart who, with the transition last year for filing income tax, now they find themselves in a situation where, hey, it's not like before. Technology is now here upon us, and I have to learn to use the technology. Having an email address at 80 now becomes so critical. You're thinking at 80, I don't want to see anything about a computer. It's not important. But now at 80 years of age, having an email address is critical for you just conducting business. So the whole concept of lifelong learning is one that education believes is critical to the growth of this country and to the development of our people. What are we doing in education? I mentioned a few of them before, but I'll just go through them again shortly or quickly. We are engaging our stakeholders. And we're doing that when we're developing our curriculum in this situation. We are meeting with the stakeholders. We're meeting with the employers. We're meeting with some persons that may have been retired from education. We're engaging our students. We're engaging those that are qualified. We're having discussions with university. We're engaging Erdiston. We're engaging our technical institutions. And we're sitting around the table and we're having discussion as to what is required to ensure that we produce the type of employee that Barbados requires, that the employers require. And that's how we are trying to address our challenges. I mentioned earlier a demand-driven system. And that is why we have the employers at the table also. So in our technical institutions, which is probably a good place to start, anytime now that the SJPA has to develop a new course, they're not developing a course in a vacuum. They're not making assumptions that this is what is required. But they're having a conversation with even the unions. They're having a conversation with the employer. What are your needs? How can I best suit your needs? And then we're going from there. We're also going around of competency-based training. Academia is good. I mean, you mentioned academia, and academia is probably easier for to avoid that automated process. But we are looking at the competency-based approach also. We want at the end of the day when persons leave institutions that they are deemed as competent to be able to go into any environment and produce the goods that are required. So it's not just having a degree that says, hey, look, I passed through this institution, but it's being able to be competent in whatever area you're in. And those are some of the things that education is doing to ensure that we meet the demand that is placed on us and that we also produce a citizen that can do Barbados proud.
Thank you. Just turn around and check if there's any questions. Java, I know you're typing a gazillion things per minute, and I know you have something to say, so please go ahead, my friend.
Thank you. I just want to continue from what my comrade said in that lifelong learning is essential. Now, I can sit here and speak of a message that my grandmother sent to me on WhatsApp just before this conference, wishing me blessings on this day and thanking God for where I am. My grandmother turned 67 this week. She understands how to use WhatsApp, not only for the superficial purposes like the good morning post. She understands how to use the technology and harness the technology that she has gotten, not necessarily because I taught her, but because she had a mind that was open to learning. And that's why lifelong learning is so essential. The world of work is not static, and it requires a constant analysis of where we are. And it might be tiring, but we have to understand that this is the world in which we live. Now, if you give a 5-year-old an iPad, you'd be amazed at what it could do with it. If you give an open-minded 67-year-old an iPad, I plan to give my grandmother an iPad soon, you'd be amazed at the things that they could do too. If you give me an iPad Pro, I don't have one yet, you would be amazed at how much I could get accomplished in a single day. And, we have to understand that, a smart Barbados is one where opportunities don't feel so incredibly out of reach, especially when they're so close to home and so suited to the intellect that this country, has been pouring into for generations. Each generation gets better. And that's why I highly commend this National First Job Initiative, because it's been so sorely needed. And from my understanding of good governance as a final-year student of international relations and broader political science, the platonic ideal state is one where there's common happiness among all the classes within society. We're dealing with an increasingly intelligent generational production of Barbadians. Therefore, what I think this current administration is managing well is catering to that, considering that a generation of greater intelligence is a potential threat to those who've held on to power in the traditional sense due to the greater accountability that they're held to, and rightfully so, within our daily exercise of a representative democracy. Regarding education, and any further type of technological transformation, it all comes down to one thing which this conference embodies, and that's one big I word. Not innovation, not intelligence, but initiative. Initiative is something that, in my view, is sorely lacking, and is what's going to usher in, so seamlessly this fourth industrial revolution. I don't want to be hypocritical at all, so I have to give this administration their complete kudos for the wealth of initiatives and hard work that they've continued to pour out, especially the new Youth Advanced Corps. I've expressed my sentiments about this, and I might sound like a broken record as it relates to harnessing tremendous people resources. From my understanding at this point in life, true leadership isn't just, managing affairs and dictating paths. It's continuing to innovate excitingly and causing others to want to follow you. So I think that we should be, we should allow ourselves to understand and, like pound it into our minds. Let's be leaders within the region and within the world, setting the pace and using globalization to our advantage. I think we have to recreate the mindset of a further digital Barbados to one that's not necessarily dystopian, because when people think of a future, they think of one that's ruled by AI, and it doesn't have to be like that. Has been so easily perpetuated by popular culture and the mass media, but it doesn't have to be like that. Our future can be one that still retains the humanity that we so desperately need to remain human. Now, we made a post on Instagram at the beginning of the school year to be able to empower other young people like myself and give them a pro tip. And I told them to use the perspective that university and academia gives to you to study the world outside of university, specifically how money is made, and position yourself to exploit that advantage as a means of survival. I told them to read it again and to use their academic eyes to see how money is being made and to milk what you know. And then you will never ever have to be scrambling for a job or knowing somebody who knows somebody, because you are then somebody who can provide value. You are then a lifelong learner.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Java. I think I definitely agree with you. I think one common trend for some reason within the Caribbean is that we tend to be consumption driven, which is very interesting. Where we have very vibrant, intelligent, energetic persons from across a wide range of industries. So the real question and another challenge I put out is, why can't we create more? The barriers to creation, the barriers to being entrepreneurs and businesses now are at the lowest ever. When you think of online stores, Instagram, we have influencers. The entry points are literally next to nothing versus a couple of decades or more when you had a brick and mortar situation, you had massive investment. You can right now rally a movement. It used to be pretty much one-to-one, but you have Facebook, you have LinkedIn, you have these different platforms, and instantaneously it becomes one-to-many. Start a revolution. We were on the panel the other day, and we had Connie Smith, who's the MD of Tricorn. What Connie ended with was very simple. She said, listen, we need to just do it. Just get it done, which I felt was very transformative.
You talk about being a consumer, and I think that's one of the things that education has to really look at also. Our students consume so much information from the internet, from the games they play, from YouTube. I mean, they consume stuff. But the question is, what are our students producing? And I think it has to start there. You're not going to become an adult and be a producer if all your life you have been a consumer. We have to get our students to start being producers. So instead of like what you're doing is good, you are placing content on the internet that can help persons to grow. So you're producing. Instead of just going there and reading and sucking in and soaking in, and then you're a sponge. And being a sponge is not bad. But at some point, we also have to educate our students to be producers in that digital space that they are. Place content that is meaningful, not just some of the silly things that we see out there where they're trying to hurt themselves, but something that is meaningful, of value, something that can help some person else grow. And that is where we have to help to adjust the mindset of our students, our young people, to be producers in this environment.
Thank you, Junior. I think we have a question.
Well, no, actually, you don't usually ask questions. I make observations. Sorry, I'm Arla Vera Harper. I'm a member of the Internet Society. And thank you all for being here. And this discourse is extremely exciting. But I want to, and I'm going to keep drilling this home to everyone in the realm of making decisions. Remember, all of these things are tools. Approach them first as tools, and then see how these tools can be maximized to create opportunity and lower barriers even more, which segues into the barriers. Yes, Otam, we have low barriers, but you know what we have? We have increased bureaucratic red tape in some instances because of the fears of what digital economies bring to societies, because people figure a legitimacy will come with the ease to create an entity. But as Estonia has shown us all, when you build in the trust into the framework from the beginning, the legitimacy is built in at the same time. What we in the Caribbean need to understand is that if we keep being fearful, we will be left not only behind, but as the dust and the fodder of those who have gone on and decided to become giants. Either we want to be a giant, or we want to be the food of the giants. So that's the challenge I throw to everyone in this room collectively. And I agree with Junior. We have to get the mindsets changed. It's not an immediate process. I will say one thing at Ellerslie. We were taught from very young that if you can think it, you can do it. Because we were under the impression that because we were a newer secondary school, that nothing was going to come of any student coming out of Ellerslie. So you have to keep fighting and keep dreaming and keep growing, but also collaborating. And remember, all these things are tools. It's at the simplest form. They're tools.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Those are definitely excellent points. So I think we're just about, from a time perspective, to wrap up. So what I want to do, I want to give the panelists the opportunity to provide some brief closing remarks, Java, and then I'll move on.
Thank you, Ashish. To close, all I have to say is that I completely agree. I believe that the discourse that happened here is not only exciting, but extremely relevant. And we all can agree that what needs to happen at this point is a paradigm shift. Because, this has happened before. Where we're at has happened before. Certain jobs became more necessary than others because whether we like it or not, the world of work is not that which is static. There are men who work in computer rooms where the computers were the size of this room, yet I still have a more powerful computer in the size of my hand. So at this point, all we need to do is to eliminate the fear, seek further knowledge on where we can, go and, create this inherent resilience into our economic path forward, and continue to collaborate with the outside world rather than fighting them, and ensuring a better future for all of us.
For me, one of the things I like to say would be that we can't ignore the challenge that comes with changes. And we have to address that. We have to recognize that change is not easy necessarily. And we have to put mechanisms in place then to assist persons with transitioning from where they currently are to where they are going to be. And really, we just can't determine that it's on their own. So I commend the union for the efforts that they're undertaking to make sure that they support the workers that may have to go through that transition. But it's something that I think we have to look at from a holistic point of view, or probably from a greater perspective, not just a union alone. How do we hold persons' hands as they go about the changes that will come about? And if you can get that right, I believe that's a start to then knocking down the walls and building something that will be sustainable.
Well, I just want to, first of all, thank you for recognizing, thank you to the organizers for recognizing that trade unions have a voice in discussions like these, because very often people wouldn't associate the trade union with a smart anything. But the opportunity has been great. One of the things that we get coming through, not only from the comments of the panelists, but even the last comment that we had from the floor, is the emphasis on collaboration. And you made reference, Chair, about the just do it, just let's do it. We have to get past just talking it and bring in our collective interests and competencies together to strengthen this 166 square miles that all of us are committed to. We can go and work and be anything anywhere, but most Bajans want to work in and for Barbados. So rather than just talking the talk, I think that more sessions like this are important to get us where we want to go. Promoting education as a strategy to decent work would be one of the things that I want us to leave here with, and the cooperation. Those are the two things that came through very clearly to me, and I believe that in Barbados, yes, we get examples from the best practice because we are lagging. We've accepted that. So there will be a place for that. But I think in Barbados, we have what it takes to do this and not be laggers, but that we will catch up and surpass where we are. Sustainable development as an objective, sustainable development, and development that leaves no one behind has to be the driver. So it's not a negative note, but just an observation. That's the only little negative tinge I had when Java was speaking, when he mentioned encouraging his colleagues to make money, because I'm thinking, wow, these positive thinkers aren't going to end up in the trade union movement because you don't make money there. But we also need people who are community driven, thinkers who are community driven, to work on behalf of others who can't see the future in the way that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So just some brief closing remarks. I definitely think all of us in the room can agree to definitely more collaborative approach. We need obviously to align education to the market conditions. The need, of course, for more social dialogue. Managing that change was definitely a common theme coming out of here. I think undermining all of this, when we look at employees, we look at people, we look at entrepreneurs, I think you need to find your passion. You know, when you find your passion, you don't work a day in your life. All right? And I just said on that note, thank you, panelists.